Hello, Century 21 Homestar agents. Today I'm going to go over the buyer agency agreement, the state of Ohio or the Ohio Association of Realtors buyer agency agreement and how to complete it and some parts of it and what's important in it and why we promote this one. We have two. If you've already saw that video and pulled up our short version, but this one has everything in all the explanation. So in all possibility, try to use this one. But if you have a buyer that just gets intimidated by the length and all the legalese in it, or if you're uncomfortable explaining this to a buyer of why this is the best for both of you, then of course our short version is there too. But I wanted to go over this with you. So first, I will share my screen. There we go. And hopefully you could see that there. So, Ohio Realtors, exclusive buyer representation agreement, flat fee and percentage. So, the Ohio Association of Realtors has a couple different versions of this. There's ones with just a flat fee, there's one with a flat fee and percentage, just for a percentage. They're all basically the same, but just kind of compensation wise. But this, I feel, we feel that makes the most sense to our business and most of our agents' business. So I'm going to go through again, read through it. You should be very familiar with every paragraph, exactly what it says, so you can explain it to buyers. But I'm going to really go through where the fields of filling things in. So you could quickly watch this video and go and remind yourself of how to fill this out. So we'll just go basically right down the line with this. Number seven, right there. This is, the names between you and the brokerage, which is Century 21 Homestar. So between the agents, the broker, you put that in there. You can see right there, names of agents and Century 21 Homestar, name of broker. Very simple there. Nothing to fill out in one unless there's some other types of conditions. But number two, the time. What date to what date? Like a listing agreement. Is it for a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year? Is it for a week? That's between you and your buyer, and you're welcome whatever time frame you want in there. But I will say right here, this is some agents have had questions on this number four. Um, that is explaining that you are able to work with other buyers. You might have other buyers looking at the same property. This is explains that in number four. Five, this is something very new. This is that they put in here, and I like it. Basically, your buyer gets to decide if they want you to be a dual agent. So if you have this contract in place and then you happen to show them one of your listings, do they want you to be a dual agent or assign you to another agent? So if you get in this scenario, or if a buyer asks, I'm happy to go through it with you. But basically, the simple explanation of this is that during the process, us seeing homes at one time, maybe it's possible that I might be working with a seller, have a house that I'm marketing, and you might be interested in that. And at that point, I'd be a dual agent. Would you like that, or would you like me to assign you to another agent to represent you? But again, explain to them in a dual agency capacity, all information is now private. What I mean by that, when I become a dual agent, anything that I know about you, I can't share with my seller, and I can't share any for my information with my seller. I'm basically, as a dual agent, I'm a mediator, so to say, and all information is confidential for both sides. So again, it's just something that gives the buyers a choice there. Number 50, right there, this is where the buyer initials, this is an initial. Buyer represents that they have not entered into another agreement with another buyer's agent. So you have that. Next, 56, the initial here, and this is where you fill out the most important part of it, your flat fee and your percentage. Now, this is where us as an office, most agents, we give you the option. We have our office $350 transaction fee that we charge you. So just to make sure you're aware that all of our agents on every transaction as an office, we have a charge of $350 per transaction. This has nothing to do with what you charge your client. We charge you, but we give you the ability to kind of charge the client to make up for that. So make sure you put that 350 here. Some of our agents charge a little bit more, some charge a little bit less, some don't charge at all. They just want to they don't want to charge their client. We take it from them. So why I say that's very important for you to put that here, because if you miss it, and don't put it here, you're still going to have that $350 charge that we have as an office. But again, why it's blank is because you get to decide how much. So some of our agents charge more. They make the difference, so to say. So hypothetically, you charge 450, we only take 350. If you decide to charge 250, we're still taking 350. If you don't want to charge it because it's a $1 million house and you're charging a 3% rate and $1 million house, you're like, I don't want to charge my client that, then we still take that 350. Just want to make sure that's clear on that because some agents ask that. And then the percentage, that's up to you. Now, there's lines in here for additional terms. That's up to you. Talk to me if there's something other buyers or want. Maybe a buyer example. A buyer says, well, I've already seen these three houses with another agent, or I might buy my neighbor's house next door for sale by owner. This might be something where exclusions might be like, hey, yeah, you're my agent as a buyer's agent, but I've already seen these houses over here with another agent, or I've already, these are for sale by owners that I was interested in. Sometimes buyers might say, well, I want to exclude a certain couple houses. So if I go back to those houses, I don't use. That could be an additional term here. And there's other places for it too. Also, maybe you could write in there as an example is times. If this was an example is sometimes agents say, well, a buyer might say, well, wow, you're charging me, again, I'm using this as an example, 3%, and I might buy the next house, and it might be $1 million house, and you only showed me one house, and you're going to charge me 3% or make sure I make 3%. Agents can have a sliding scale. Maybe it's 1% if you buy a house in the first week. If it's 2%, if you buy a house within the first month or two, it's 3%. If it's over it's 90 days, and I've shown you more than 20 houses, and you could have a sliding scale. That's an idea too. Just I'm giving you ideas. The numbers and the percentages are just examples. I'm just throwing those out there. But you, as an independent agent, you get to decide what your charge is and for your time, your expertise, and the effort you're going to put into it. So I want to make sure that's clear. Next, 67. This is where you put, my suggestion is 180 days, but it's a number of days after this agreement. So, or if this agreement gets canceled. So a buyer is basically telling a buyer, if at any time you buy a house within a certain number of days, usually I suggest 180 days, and go back to one of the houses that you've worked for and or worked on and showed them and got them interested in, that this agreement will be back in place. Also, if it's canceled, so it also tells buyers that, hey, if we both agree to walk away, you want to cancel or terminate our agreement for whatever reason, maybe you're stopping to buy, you're just you're done searching, you want to put a stop on it, you're thinking about not buying. But if we terminate this agreement, if you all of a sudden within a certain number of days decide to go back and buy one of those houses, you have to call me, get me involved, or you still owe. Got to make sure I get that commission. So up here again, with that percentage, I'm going back here. Additional terms also can be, we can write in there similar verbiage that's on our short, say a short form, is about how a buyer requests us as agents to ask the seller to pay their compensation. So that's a very important thing. Sorry, I went back to that. Is this is an additional terms where we could write in that explain to a buyer, hey, yes, you are responsible for making sure I get paid this percentage, but we could write in here additional terms that you request that I always ask the seller to pay that fee. So a buyer, just want to make sure we're clear on this. You explain to a buyer, any buyer can 100% require a seller to pay our fee in an offer. Will the seller accept it? We don't know. But if a buyer says to you, hey, I have limited funds or I don't want to spend the money, I only want to buy a house, where the seller is going to compensate you for your fee, which is going to happen, my opinion, 99% of the time. Sellers will continue to pay. Buyers will ask them to pay. But if a buyer wants you to put that kind of in additional terms to make them feel more comfortable that they are instructing you to make sure this fee is included in all purchase agreements, again, we can't guarantee the seller will always accept it, but we're going to promote and push for that. We could put that in additional terms here right underneath that so the buyer feels comfortable saying, oh, I just have to make sure you're getting this percentage, but we're going to do everything it can between the buyer and you to include that in any offer so the seller does. So contact me. I'm happy with the verbiage there to role play with you, to explain, because our goal is with a buyer is always to say, hey, this agreement is not that you have to pay me all the time out of your pocket. You just as a buyer have to make sure I get paid this from some source, the seller, from the buyer, a combination of both, a third party, whoever. It doesn't have to be actual cash check at closing from buyer directly to you. That's an option. That's the beauty of all of this, is that the buyers have a choice. So I'm happy to role play with you, go over this with you, so you are comfortable saying to a buyer, listen, you don't have to pay me. If you don't ever want to pay me out of your pocket directly, you just have to, well, make sure you're going to work, we're going to work together to make sure someone else pays me. And so if that makes sense, and I'm very comfortable explaining that to buyers so they know, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have to pay you. So next, 81, optional amount of a non-refundable engagement fee. I don't suggest these at all. I mean, because it was in the past, we've had agents try to take non-refundable deposits or for their time. We obviously legally can do that, but sometimes, you know, if a seller or a buyer wants to terminate the agreement, sometimes then they want that money back because for whatever reason, and then it's a hassle getting it back to them. You know, legally we can do it. We don't really promote it because it could be kind of a legal mess afterwards if they don't think you did the job you're supposed to do. But in theory, you can. So call me directly. I'm happy to walk, you know, if you want to, or feel that you deserve for your time and effort to charge this up front. Let's go through this scenario and why. And I've approved them before. So for some agents, I told other agents, no, it's not a good idea to do that. But we have that here. We don't have this option on our short form. So if any agent wants to, you're kind of forced to use this long form if you think you're going to ask for a certain dollar amount up front. Going through here. Originally, more additional provisions. Just let me know if you think there's anything that you have. A lot of this length of this contract is a lot of additional provisions or additional terms that could be part of it. You could add to it. I don't think we need this many lines, but they put a lot of lines in there. But there could be situations or buyers say, well, this, but maybe this, but what happens if this happens? Maybe some buyers want to put in there more verbiage where they feel comfortable knowing that they could get out at any time. Or if they don't, if like this one right here, maybe property condition, they want to add some things to it. So if you actually have a buyer that actually reads every line to this, wants to add something to it. So they did a good job of adding a lot to it. But basically, the last page is the signature page where you fill out all that information. But again, the last thing they do is something amendment to this agreement. So basically, what I like about this is example. This is possibly what could happen and amend the agreement is uh you as an agent, whatever dollar amount or percentage you put in here in this agreement and even in our short agreement explains that at no time legally can we accept any more money than what's on here. The point of this agreement with and why it's important is transparency. As a buyer, as a buyer's agent, and when we start to work with a buyer before showing the first house, you have to tell them how much you charge, how much you're going to make, again, and who's going to pay you. It has to be some type of transparency, just like a listing agreement. A listing agreement, when you have a listing agreement signed, you and the seller sit there and say, this is what I'm going to be charging you when the house closes. Very logical. Same thing with the buyer. How much do you want to make? That's the beauty of this. And why I love this is that you, as a buyer's agent, get to decide with your buyer how much you are worth. That's it. Before you go look at houses, you don't have to worry anymore. Oh, I have no idea what I'm going to get paid. I might find them a house that the seller's offering 1% or 2% or 3%. And we always left it up to the seller and the listing agent. And guess what? Listing agents have been getting very, very bad over the last several years of explaining the value of buyer's agents, and the compensation has been going down, 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 down for buyer's agents. Now we get to push them back up, or not really exactly have to push them back up, but you get to pick now of what you're worth. And guess what? Every buyer's agent is different. I mean, they're all around the same, but some, might not put as much worth on them and go low. Some are going to go high. I joke in some of my other videos, I'd be the most expensive buyer's agent. If a buyer came to me and said, hey, Tony, I want you and I want to sign this agreement. I promise you that number and that percentage I put will be probably the highest in our market because I'm 30 years experience. I'm very knowledgeable. I know what I'm doing and I'm going to bring a lot of value. I'll be the most expensive agent in our market. So you get to do that too and be that choice. So where this amendment comes in, back to that, is that or change to this, and there's another signature. So you don't fill this out. They don't sign this bottom part. They sign up here, right under 141. This is blank. You leave that blank. But where an amendment can come in, if you, hypothetically, this is just throwing out, say you put 2% in there, and then when you show them a listing and that listing agent and that seller already had in their mind that they want to compensate 3%. Technically, the way the raw laws and rules work, if you put 2% on this and they're offering 3%, that 1% difference has to be credited back to the buyer as a credit at closing. You can't accept legally more than what's on this agreement, but you can amend your agreement. So hypothetically, what been saying to our buyers agents, if you have a certain percentage in what you agree to, and you happen to run across a listing and the listing agent says, hey, I'm offering this, you could go back to your buyer and go, hey, by the way, just wanted to let you know this on this one particular home, this seller is offering more. I will to buyer's agent. So let's amend my agreement and you can write in there on this house, 123 Main Street, my commission or my compensation will be 3%. You could put something like that in there. But again, call me and before, if you need help in figuring this out, have them sign it. Now you've amended your agreement to a higher rate, and you went and explained that to your buyer why you're doing it, and they signed and agreed to it. They could say, no, I'm not agreeing to it. It's very possible. Buyer could say, hey, no, we agreed to 2%. You can't accept 3%. You got to give me that back. They can do that. That's possible. Or they could say, yes, you are well worth it. You've been working with me for months. This house is this. You've been doing a great job. Fine. They're already offering it. It's not going to affect their transaction negatively. And you explain that to them, write it in here, and have them sign it, and you're in compliance there. So let me stop my share there. Okay, there's my face again. So hopefully that helps at least give you this video to watch at any time as a reminder. But again, I'm here if you need to, or call the office. Main number, talk to Debbie, Julia, Brenda. We're here to help you with this, of course, as much as possible, because with over 500 great agents all across Ohio, sometimes we're on the phone and we have appointments with agents set in advance. Try to give us some time, you know. So plan ahead. If you know you're going to be starting to work with a buyer tomorrow, start about to start having serious conversations with them. Try to get a hold of us. Send a text message to the office, call, email, saying, "Hey, by the way, can I set up a time to talk to somebody, Tony, Debbie, Brenda, Julia, someone in the office to go over, giving you a fresh pep talk, role play, so you could explain this to a new buyer and be ready for it, so you're comfortable getting them to agree to it." So that's our whole goal. So much time as you can, great. But of course, if it's an emergency and you need it now, one of us is going to get to you ASAP. All right. Thanks for watching. And I hope to talk to many of you very soon. Bye-bye.